The biting wind howled through the skeletal remains of skyscrapers, a mournful dirge echoing across the ashen landscape. For Sir Kalin, the eternal night, it was just another Tuesday or Wednesday, or perhaps it was the 789th Thursday since the crimson blight choked the world. He'd lost count long ago, the endless cycle of survival blurring the lines between days, weeks, and years. His armor, once gleaming silver, was now a patchwork of rust and salvaged plating. The sword strapped to his back, a relic from a forgotten age of chivalry, was his only constant companion. He could be burned, stabbed, crushed, even atomized, but he would always reform, the pain a constant reminder of his eternal prison. He was hunting scraps again, picking through the detritus of a fallen civilization when he stumbled upon it. Not a crumbling building, or a mutated rat, but a flicker. A shimmering distortion in the air, barely perceptible, like heat rising from asphalt on a scorching day. He'd seen such anomalies before, whispers of ancient magic clinging to this blighted world. Curiosity, a rare emotion these days, pulled him closer. He landed on soft grass, the scent of blooming flowers assaulting his nostrils. The air was clean, the sky a vibrant blue, untouched by the perpetual gloom that shrouded the outside world. He stood in a manicured garden, surrounded by towering trees whose leaves shimmered with an inner light. In the distance he saw a grand edifice, a castle-like structure built of white stone and topped with shimmering spires. It hummed with an energy he hadn't felt in centuries, a raw, untamed magic that both intrigued and frightened. He was greeted by a girl, barely more than a child, with hair like spun moonlight and eyes that held the wisdom of ages. She wore robes of deep indigo, embroidered with silver stars. "Welcome, Sir Kalin," she said, her voice surprisingly strong. "We have been expecting you." He was immediately suspicious. "Expecting me? I've been wandering the wastes for centuries. How could anyone expect me?" "Ethelgard is shielded from the outside world, a sanctuary for those with magical abilities," she explained. "Headmaster Eldrin believes you possess a power unlike any other." She led him through the sprawling campus. Students, clad in robes of various colors, hurried between classes, their faces alight with excitement and anticipation. He saw them practicing spells, conjuring balls of light, and levitating objects with apparent ease. He, a warrior forged in the fires of countless battles, felt strangely out of place. He was shown to a modest chamber in one of the towers. The room was simple but comfortable, with a bed, a desk, and a window overlooking the garden. Headmaster Eldrin was an old man, his face etched with wrinkles, his eyes twinkling with intelligence. He had a long white beard and wore robes of deep emerald green. "Sir Kalin," he said, his voice warm and welcoming, "it is an honor to have you with us. We know of your condition, your immortality. It is a rare and potent form of magic, one that we wish to understand." Kalin bristled. "Understand? I am not a specimen to be dissected. This condition, as you call it, is a curse, not a gift." "We understand your pain, Sir Kalin," Eldrin said gently. "To protect this world, to perhaps even heal the wounds of the old one," Kalin scoffed. "Heal? The world is beyond saving. I have seen too much death, too much destruction. There is no hope," Eldrin sighed. "Perhaps. But even in the darkest of times, hope must be nurtured. We believe you can be a beacon of that hope, Sir Kalin. We offer you sanctuary, knowledge, and a chance to find purpose. All we ask in return is your willingness to share your knowledge and allow us to study your unique physiology." Kalin, weary of his endless wandering, agreed, but with a heavy heart. He was a slow learner, his mind hardened by centuries of war and survival. But he was also a dedicated student, driven by a desire to understand the curse that plagued him and, perhaps, find a way to control it. He formed an unlikely friendship with Ilara, the girl who had greeted him. She was a prodigy, excelling in all forms of magic, and she took a special interest in Kalin, seeing beneath his gruff exterior the pain and loneliness he carried. She became his confidant, his guide, and his only friend in this strange new world. Whispers began to circulate among the students and faculty. Some saw him as a hero, a legendary knight from a bygone era. Others saw him as a monster, an abomination of nature, a threat to the delicate balance of magic. Among the latter was a powerful and ambitious professor named Marius. He was a master of dark arts, his heart filled with envy and resentment. He saw Kalen's immortality as a source of immense power, a power he craved for himself. He began to plot, scheming to steal Kalen's curse and use it to achieve his own twisted goals. He spread rumors about Kalen, exaggerating his past and painting him as a bloodthirsty killer. He manipulated students, turning them against him. He even attempted to sabotage Kalen's studies, making it difficult for him to learn and progress. Kalen, used to being feared and hated, tried to ignore the animosity. But Marius's actions were escalating, and he knew it was only a matter of time before he made a direct move. The attack came during a festival celebrating the Academy's founding. The grounds were filled with students, faculty, and visitors, all enjoying the music, food, and magical displays. He turned to see Marius standing at the edge of the crowd, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Marius raised his hands, and the ground began to shake. Dark tendrils of energy erupted from the earth, snaking towards Kalen. He pushed Alara out of the way, drawing his sword. The fight was on. Marius unleashed a barrage of dark spells, bolts of shadow and curses that ripped through the air. Kalen deflected them with his sword, his movements surprisingly agile for a man of his age. But Marius was powerful, and his spells were relentless. He felt the familiar burning pain as his body began to regenerate. He knew he couldn't win a straight fight. Marius was too strong, too skilled in the dark arts. He needed to find a weakness, a way to turn the tables. He noticed that Marius was drawing his power from a nearby obelisk, a dark stone pulsating with energy. If he could destroy the obelisk, he could cut off Marius's source of power. He charged towards Marius, dodging spells and weaving through the crowd. Marius, enraged by Kalen's defiance, unleashed a powerful curse, a spell that was designed to trap and imprison its target. Marius grinned triumphantly. "Now, Sir Knight," he said, his voice dripping with malice, "your immortality will be mine." Marius began chanting an ancient incantation, his hands glowing with dark energy. He was preparing to drain Kalen's curse, to transfer it to himself. Kalen struggled against the spell, but he was helpless. He closed his eyes, bracing for the inevitable. But then, he felt a surge of energy, a wave of warmth that washed over him. He opened his eyes and saw Alara standing before him, her hands outstretched. "I won't let you do this," she cried. Alara's intervention gave Kalen the opening he needed. He focused his will, drawing on the ancient power that flowed through his veins. He broke free from the curse, his body surging with energy. He raised his sword and charged towards the obelisk. Marius, distracted by Alara, was too slow to react. Kalen struck the obelisk with all his might, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. The dark energy that had been flowing through Marius dissipated, leaving him weakened and vulnerable. Marius, realizing he had lost, tried to flee, but Kalen was too fast. He tackled Marius to the ground, pinning him beneath his weight. "It's over, Marius," he said, his voice grim. "You will not harm anyone else." He raised his sword, preparing to deliver the final blow, but then he hesitated. He looked at Marius's face, saw the fear and desperation in his eyes. He remembered his own pain, his own loneliness, his own struggles with the curse that plagued him. He lowered his sword. "I will not kill you, Marius," he said. He handed Marius over to the authorities at Æthelgard, who promised to deal with him justly. The festival was ruined, the atmosphere of celebration replaced with fear and uncertainty, but Kalen had proven himself to be a hero, a protector of Æthelgard. He was no longer seen as a monster, but as a guardian, a symbol of hope in a dark world. In the days that followed, Kalen continued his studies, but his focus had shifted. He was no longer just trying to understand his curse. He was trying to understand himself, to find a purpose for his eternal life. He began to see the world through her eyes, to see the beauty and the potential that still existed, even in the face of darkness. One evening, Alara found Kalen in the garden staring at the stars. She sat down beside him. "You've changed, Kalen," she said. "You're not as haunted as you used to be." "Perhaps," he said. "Perhaps I'm finally starting to heal." He turned to her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You helped me, Alara. You showed me that there is still good in the world, that even a cursed knight can find redemption. You didn't need me, Kaelin. You had the strength within you all along." She stood up and held out her hand. "Come, let's go for a walk." They walked through the garden, the moonlight illuminating their path. As they walked, Kaelin felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in centuries. He was still cursed, still destined to live forever. But he was no longer alone. He had found a purpose, a friend, and perhaps even a glimmer of hope, but their peace was short-lived. A few weeks later, Æthelgard came under attack. His army was vast and well-equipped, and they quickly overwhelmed the Academy's defenses. Headmaster Eldrin gathered the students and faculty, preparing them for battle. "We must defend Æthelgard at all costs," he declared. "This is our home, our sanctuary. We will not let it fall." Kaelin stood at the front lines, his sword drawn. He was ready to fight, to protect the Academy and its inhabitants, but he knew that they were outmatched. The warlord's army was too strong, too numerous. They needed a miracle to survive. He cut down soldiers left and right, his sword a blur of steel. But the enemy kept coming, wave after wave of relentless attackers. He was wounded multiple times, his armor torn and bloodied, but he kept fighting, driven by a determination to protect the people he had come to care for. Ilara fought alongside him, her magic a powerful weapon against the enemy. She conjured storms, summoned fire, and shielded her allies from harm. But even her magic was not enough to stem the tide. The warlord's forces were breaking through the defenses, pushing closer to the main building. They knew that their end was near, but they refused to give up. They would fight to the last breath, to protect Æthelgard and its secrets. Suddenly the ground began to shake. A deafening roar echoed through the battlefield. The warlord's army stopped in their tracks, their faces filled with fear. From the heart of the Academy, a massive dragon emerged, its scales shimmering like gold. The dragon unleashed a torrent of fire, incinerating the enemy soldiers in its path. It was Æthelgard's ancient protector, a creature of immense power that had slumbered for centuries. After the battle, as the smoke cleared and the wounded were tended to, Kaelin stood beside Ilara, watching the dragon soar into the sky. "Æthelgard is safe," she said, her voice filled with relief. "But the warlord will be back. He will not give up so easily." Kaelin nodded. "Then we will be ready for him," he said. "We will train harder, prepare better. We will defend Æthelgard no matter the cost." He looked at Ilara, his eyes filled with determination. "And this time we will do it together." The resolution saw Kaelin embrace his curse, turning his immortality into a shield